Ladies and gentlemen, run, don't walk, put your caps on, do whatever it is, and run on over to the Duval Dive. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, a student of the game. Welcome in all of you out there in the Duval Devout region there. Your Jacksonville Jaguars had a very intriguing draft, and whether or not you liked it, you damn sure couldn't have been bored by it. But just so I'm not talking here by myself, because we know, I am not a great scout, but you know who is? My personal champion and co-host, Big Cat Country's own Travis D. Holmes. What's going on? I'm glad to see you in, my man. Fun times this weekend, right?
It was fun times. It was interesting times. And whether or not you love the draft, whether you just liked it, whatever is going on, if you hated it, you dead inside. Let me just get that out the way now. But whether you loved it or whether you not, you just in with it. Like, I'm here for it because at the end of the day, everybody's talking about Duval right now.
And you got to love it here. Travis is excited not only because we're talking about Duval, but we're about ready to talk about the defensive picks that the Duval Devout will be enjoying here in Jacksonville. Of course, we'll do an episode very shortly for your offensive ones. Don't lose heart there. You might see somebody appear twice because, he kind of plays both sides. But with all that in mind, Travis, let's get into it. The surprise of the draft, I should say the positive surprise of the draft, certainly the surprise of the first round early on, number 2 overall, Travis Hunter. Walk us through it, man.
Mr. Travis Hunter, Mr. Intangibly Rich Travis Hunter, who, it shows off all the traits. Look at your boy, 80-yard run, runs the man down to tackle him at the 23-yard line, makes the tackle just so he on the next play can end the drive with this incredible Superman dive. Like, come on, man. Like, that is the guy you want in your locker room. That is the guy you want in your defensive backfield. That is the guy you want just changing the identity of this Jacksonville Jaguars defensive secondary and roster overall, man. Like, I am here for Travis Hunter in Duval County, not just because I'm not trying to sound like James Gladstone and give you this huge this huge thesis on who Travis Hunter is, but also it's kind of dope, bro. Like, the best player in the draft on multiple sides of the ball, like on both sides of the ball. It just happens to be in Jacksonville. Hey, man, you can't really ignore Duval now. Like, I truly feel that way as far as the national media is concerned. Like, they have to talk about this team now.
I'll put it this way. If you need somebody intangibly rich to step in the likely event that Tyson Campbell's going to miss time, that's certainly the kind of film you want to see. On that, I shan't front. But, and you and I have both said, we haven't done the offensive episode yet. I'm sure we'll break down a little bit of it too. But what percentage, and I shouldn't say what percentage, how many snaps do you actually think he'll really get at corner with this group? Because I feel like with the acquisitions they made, the draft performance they had, actually the draft performance has little to do with it, right? Because they're focused on DB. Right. I think you talked about that not only on Big Cat Country, but I referenced it on Fans First Sports Network with the 2 draft picks they did get. Yeah, we'll do 2. Why the hell not?
So this is going to be interesting though, because I initially they said, let me rephrase. Initially, what I heard before the draft, that if Travis Hunter ever came to Duval County, they viewed him primarily as a receiver, and then he was going to moonlight as a DB. And then after the draft, they were very clear. They being, General Manager James Gladstone and Head Coach Liam Cohen were very clear in saying, we want this to look like it looked at Colorado State. That has meaning. If you're saying you want this to look like it looked, well, what did it look like? It looked like him playing 85% of the snaps for that team. No other player in the FBS in 2024 played more than 56% of their team's total snaps. And Travis Hunter led his team in snaps in both 2023 and 2024. That sounds to me like, hey, man, I want this dude to be playing 80+% of the snaps on both sides of the ball. And if that is truly what takes place here, oh boy, it will look like Colorado, and that will be very, very interesting in the NFL. That'd be the first time you have a 2-way starter since, it's been like 60 years. I believe it's something along those lines.
Well, we would be
full-time 2-way starter.
To not mention Troy Brown, who did start.
He moonlighted.
But he moonlighted doing it. Right, exactly. He didn't have a lot of.
He moonlighted.
Right. He didn't have a lot of snaps, but he was technically a air quote starting DB.
It will be the first time since like the late 1960s, I believe, or early 1970s. Like it's been that long to have someone who legitimately starts most games on both sides of the ball. That will be something different.
Right. No, it's nuts, man. I'm looking forward to seeing the outcome of that. To wax poetic now would only be to continue the what's his word? The excitement from Thursday night and all of that.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that their plan goes as planned. Like I'm hoping that when they get on the practice field, they get into the defensive, learn the teaching room, and everything happens exactly how they want it to happen. Like he's truly able to do this thing on both sides of the ball. I mean, worst case scenario, I guess we'll only take him, as a top 30 wide receiver. I mean, like, I guess we'll just take him being an awesome receiver, which we will get into when we get to the defense, the offensive episode later this week. Keep your eyes out, guys. Like and subscribe to Duval Dive on YouTube and on wherever you catch your podcast, FYI. But let's get to the next player. Let's do it.
And with that, the next draft pick, the Jags acquired. They stayed with defense. I had that much right, but they did not get a defensive tackle, mostly because those dudes flew off the board. Instead, they stayed and made Travis very happy in the defensive backfield. Who did we see there get drafted there, Travis?
Caleb Ransol, defensive back from Tulane in the 3rd round. Man, that man. He's a great slot corner in 2024, but that's not really his position. His position is he's going to be all over the place. Like whether that's, what did you want to call it? The buck position, whether you want to call it your safety role. This is him, his interception in the Senior Bowl, where Gladstone got his hands on him very closely. He's going to be one of those guys who do their best work when they're able to just move around and play zone and read the quarterback's eyes. And that's what I love about him. Most people ask, well, how did he drop to the 3rd round? What's wrong with them? What's going on with them? Well, really what it comes down to is that Tulane defense, they didn't do as much zone coverage and or put him at safety as often in 2024 than they did in 2023. So in 2023, when he was playing a lot more zone, I mean, actually Daniel Griffiths tweeted it out, friend of the pod, Daniel Griffiths, tweeted it out, in 137 snaps in zone, Caleb Ransol allowed just 3 receptions for 45 yards on 9 targets.
That's nuts.
That's just the fact that they just didn't play as much zone coverage. Like that was his biggest issue in this season, and it kind of impacted his draft stock. But overall, like he's an athletic ball of clay. Like he's a 4.3 40. I believe he had a 40-inch vertical at the combine, and you're talking about putting that guy at safety or just letting him roam and just be an athlete and just be a dog. Even in his down season, he was 3rd team all AAC. I'll take that in the 3rd round.
Well, yeah, when a program out there trusts a player in the way that the Steelers used to trust Troy Polamalu, that's interesting. Now, I'm not saying that's this guy by any stretch of the imagination, right? If he's anybody who's smart enough to freelance, I'll let you boy. But the only thing I can really hold against him personally is those awful helmets that Tulane wears when they go with that powder blue trash when they're the green wave. What are we doing? But joking aside,
I can't blame that man for his university's failures, man. That's generational.
Well, you say that, but a lot of scouts, I think, do. And I know you put it up on Twitter yourself that he had the most turnovers amongst the safeties drafted. Mm-hmm. Seeing him ahead of Xavier Watts was interesting, but then I remembered that this is the American Athletic Conference. And now that they've lost the programs that they've had, they aren't quite as good. And frankly, Tulane is kind of a big fish in a small pond there. And that may have impacted his stock just as much as anything else. That being said, if he's in the right defense, I like where you're going. I see what they're thinking. It explained a lot to me. I know at one point I was this close to saying it was my least favorite draft pick.
Ooh, least favorite. Man,
I'm happy that way. Go back and listen to the episode.
Yeah. I remember, but even the words hit my heart. But I got you. I'm with you.
But this converted me further away from that. And you, sir, you protected me from making a mistake as me saying Cam Newton ain't going to make it in this league. Okay? So
All right. Well, no, at the end of the day, man, I think it was I understood why they went with this pick. And interestingly enough, because everyone was going crazy about Xavier Watts, everyone seemed to be fans of his. I'm a major fan of Xavier Watts. And obviously the team did not draft him. They ended up choosing Ransol over him. But you can look at what they want to do. Like at the end of the day, Caleb Ransol is a great tackler. Xavier Watts, that is literally his deficiency. Like he is an incredible defensive back at intercepting the ball, getting hands on the ball, pass breakups, etc. Caleb Ransol don't miss tackles. Like, and James Lastall said it. He's like, hey, you know, the main word in safety is safe. And he wants someone who's going to not miss those tackles, who's going to be a very good tackler, whether they're at the line of scrimmage, whether they're in the deep third, whether they're in the, you know, whether they're just directly in the box. That's not Xavier Watts' game. That is absolutely Ransol's game. So I understood why they went that route. They wanted someone who was not going to be out here bursting, you know, not just bursting coverages, but also not giving up explosive runs, because that's part of the NFL also. You got to be able to tackle if you want to be able to get in coverage. And I think this staff on both sides of the ball, and we will get into that, have kind of shown that they're done with the limited players who are bad in one area and incredible in the other one. Like they need guys who are more balanced.
Hey, one of the trademarks of our leadership group is that when there's an opportunity to be bold, we won't flinch.
Who knew that it would be 2 for 2 with the picks based on that breakdown? So there's all of that.
It's bold whether we love it, or it's bold whether we don't like it as much, but it's going to be bold either way. I understand it.
Well, much as we talked about Xavier Watts in Notre Dame, a Notre Dame player would still find his way to Duval in this draft. Jack Kaiser, the next player off the board. And Travis, for all the times you and I talked about linebacker needed an answer, or at least me. I know I was crying about it, felt like, but Jack Kaiser, the pick. I was a little surprised by this one myself, to be honest, but walk me through what you saw.
I mean, I was not surprised. I actually I sent a message to a friend of the show, Mike Barber, that the Jaguars would be drafting a linebacker right after the 100th pick. Like I said it in writing, and then I tweeted it after the fact. And this boy is a dog. I was like, you knew they would. Like he jumps over a cut block and still gets the sack. That is ridiculous. Like at this point, that boy must be mixed. I don't know. He got some that athleticism come from somewhere. We need to draft him in the next racial draft. Like, come on, bro. You on this side? That is crazy. Man, misses the cut block. Gets back over. Looks like a zombie in I Am Legend, and I don't know what to do with that. Like. Athletically, when you look at the combine and everything else, he doesn't come out. He doesn't pop off the screen as this guy who's like uber athletic. But then when you look at the tape, he doesn't miss tackles. Like he has less than a 5% missed tackle rate, which is one of the best rates for any of the linebackers in this draft class. He's really good at shedding blocks and actually like run stopping and things of that nature. And the data seems to be all over the place, honestly. If you're talking about his coverage skills, we were listening to the bootleg football podcast during the draft with Brett Coleman, and those guys, they did mention that he was bottom 3 in coverage, in quarterback rating against in coverage. And then I'm like, wait a minute, but I can't find that data anywhere when I'm looking for it now. Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting, because when I looked at his data, it was showing that he had a 49.7, which was his career best passing rating when targeted, which wouldn't be bad. It's just kind of like middle of the pack. So I'm just like, I don't know how to feel about it, but looking at the film, he looked like he was an elite, and I do mean elite, run stopping linebacker. You know, talking about your prototypical Mike linebacker, maybe can fill that will spot. And at minimum, he is going to be that ceiling raiser for that Chad Muma spot as a backup linebacker to start off, and he may be able to step in pretty early on and give you a little bit more. But I have a small theory, but I wanted to know your thoughts on, like, what did you see from Jack? How did you feel about him?
Well, and when we looked at it too, we alluded to this in the reaction thing. First of all, I can see why you were impressed by him jumping over that cut block. It's so much so apparently you left Colin Powell on the board there. But with all that being said, you know, from what I hear too, of reports surrounding him is that he was a big leader on that defense, kind of like Foye Oluokun, right? This is the part we alluded to, you and I talking about him in the past, is he's I think, listen, you don't just replay a Foye Oluokun and Father Time is on his way for him. I hate the fact that Father Time's a thing here, but it is. And let's be honest, should Foye, it's not so much that I think he'll get hurt and literally miss time, but if there's some way we can manage his load, if he sprains an ankle, a knee, or something, get this young fella in there to do a little bit, and let's try and get a linebacker group that can account for that missing in the aggregate, because Chad Muma ain't going to do it. I said what I said, Travis Homer. But more on that in the next pick, I'm sure.
No. But you said it, though. Like, he was a team captain for this Notre Dame team. He was a 4-year starter in that organization. Yes, he ended up getting dinged in the draft because of his age, mainly. Like, he's 25 years old. And because you have generally average athleticism as far as the combine is concerned, and then you're 25 years old, you're going to be dinged in the draft. But we've already talked about this whole offseason. We kept telling you guys, when you get to those middle rounds and those late rounds, Gladstone historically has drafted those older players. That's why we said RJ Harvey was going to be someone they targeted, which is very interesting, because some people called us haters or said we were UCF homers because we said James Gladstone is going to be interested in RJ Harvey.
Apparently I wasn't enough of a homer. I didn't think he'd make it to out in day 2. So how much of a homer can I be, Travis?
But it's so funny because we've had people in our comments, people in the YouTube chats, and people all over the place in the socials saying, you guys are just saying RJ Harvey because he's at UCF. And I was the one that kept saying, I actually think he's going to go in the 3rd to 4th round. And he ends up going in the late 2nd round. And if you are someone who reads The Athletic, Mike Silver was in the Jaguars War Room and had this great breakdown of the board for certain players for the Jacksonville Jaguars, trades that they were trying to make that didn't go through. But one of those nuggets just happened to say they were going to draft RJ Harvey at the pick 70, which is the 3rd round pick. The Jacksonville Jaguars were going to draft RJ Harvey, and he went off the board at 60. And that's how that happened. And again, take a look at The Athletic. It's behind the paywall. Pay for it, trust me, or find someone who has a membership. And they have 5 free guest passes for you to read the articles. It is a great read, and I think everybody should check it out, because it talks about multiple players that the Jaguars were interested in. It gives you behind the scenes as far as their draft board and a few trades that they were trying to make. For instance, one with the Detroit Lions that would have gotten the Jaguars a 2nd round pick had they done it, but it didn't work out for a few reasons. So it was just a great read. But nevertheless,
Williams in the 1st round, and it broke my heart, but that's okay.
I just thought it was funny because I kept telling people, like, there are multiple players that we're going to be interested in. Ashton Jeanty, because he has the leadership traits. What do we find out in that same article? Ashton Jeanty and Travis Hunters were the 2 guys they said had leadership traits. They were math. They basically make you redo the math. They changed the math. They're math changers, essentially.
Right.
And Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, those are the 2 guys. And they also said RJ Harvey was someone on the Jaguars board in the 3rd round, and for their 70th pick, that's who they were going to go with. So I say all that to say these guys who are older is the guys who they're aiming for in those middle rounds. Guys who can step on the field immediately and play what they did on tape in college and immediately transpose that into the field. So that's something to look for in future drafts. But I just love the fact that, hey man, Kaiser, he had one of the best missed tackle percentages of any linebacker with at least 75 tackles last season in college football, and he's a leader on that team. And I think that's something the Jaguars are looking for as they try to revamp this culture with a lot of young guys, but they want young guys who are dogs and also still organized and all about ball. So I'm here for the pick in that way, and he's going to be a core 4 special teamer. I got no qualms with that pick, man.
Great points. So staying in that part of the building, the next player is listed as an edge. I worded it that way on purpose. But Jaylen Mloud of Auburn, previously of Appalachian State. And I know Travis is going to tell you about the propensity to take players from FCS that moved up to a power school that still were prolific. And the only reason why I'm taking any credit is because I already wrote about that kind of behavior mattering with the black and gold banneret with Mac McWilliams. So this is what we see here. But Travis, build on that. What do you think?
No, I mean, you hit it on the head. James Gladstone said it after the 3rd day of the draft. Like, he's looking for one of those key touch points is a lot of the guys who have come from a smaller organization, smaller school, and they move up in levels of play, and they still keep that same production. And he's had multiple draft picks in the Rams in the past that have that same, again, touch point. He mentioned, with Jared Verse was one of those guys, drafted from FSU, but also drafted to the Rams. If you're looking at this thing, McLeod had 8 sacks in 2024. He had a very good season, again, kind of playing as a tweener, because he doesn't have the size to truly play every down as far as playing as an edge, but he also played a little bit of stack linebacker for the team. 13 tackles for a loss, 8 sacks in 2024. And to your point, you already mentioned that he played his first 3 seasons at Appalachian State. He's 241 pounds. So like weight wise, he's generally fine. It's just one of those things that he's not fully there yet where he's ready to be a full-time 3-down edge, but he can absolutely show you his chops as a designated pass rusher. Speaking of designated pass rushers, the Jacksonville Jaguars also might have a secondary option to play that role. Since the draft ended, for those of you who may not have been aware at this point, the Jaguars also signed Emmanuel Agba, former Miami Dolphins defensive end, and that's curious. I thought when James Gladstone after the draft talked about bringing in, touching on pro free agency, touching on the defensive line, that they were going to look into bringing in a defensive tackle. Yeah, and they've shown us, bro. They have shown us. They seem to feel very comfortable with that DT room. But how did you feel about Jaylen on this draft pick at least?
Well, and what I was going to turn and ask you is his ability to play stand-up linebacker is now what we're going to be focused on. One would assume with Ogba in the room. So Chad Muma, your days are numbered, right? I feel like this is kind of what we're looking at. And I think that's the role he's going to play. I think it's perfect for what you're getting at that round. This does to me at least, smell a bit like they may have had a different target in mind previously. I don't know. I haven't gotten to that article you mentioned yet, but I think it's a good enough fit. I did say it was my least favorite pick, but that's mostly because the Jags had a good draft, in my opinion.
Well, it's interesting you say that because James Gladstone he seemed to be very honest and transparent in his thoughts. Like he specifically did say that out of all the picks, all of them but one was on his list, like I guess for his intangible list. So if you're looking at his day 3 picks, which this will be one of, you have to question which one of the 3 guys did not have the quote unquote, the high level Jaguars DNA, as they say it. I'm just curious about which one of those guys were the guy that was kind of not off their board, but like not in that top group. And it's got to be one of them, right? Because he expressly said that it was all of them but one. So I'm just figuring out, I forget the exact quote, but it may have been 8 out of 9 or something along those lines.
Well, I'll give you a teaser as to which one I think it might be. It was my favorite draft pick, who we'll be talking about in the offensive episode when it comes out.
Okay. Well, nevertheless, McLeod, he had an 18.8 pass rush win rate, which was 12th among Power 5 edge rushers with over 200 snaps. He was PFF's 8th ranked pass rusher. Wow. And he did this in an SEC school. He did this at Auburn.
Yeah.
I don't like if that's not someone who's on your board, if that's just one of those, hey man, he's the best player on the board kind of picks, and I can see if I can develop into something. At worst, I'm okay with that, man. Like you're taking a chance on a guy and seeing if it works out.
Especially has all those pick, right? Yeah,
he has those types of analytics behind him, and I would want to see what if he can become a unique Ngakoue. Cool, like that sounds fine. That's a very solid plan, and having Agba also in the room gives him time to truly develop. And if he does need that time, you have it. And if he doesn't need that time, well, guess what? You have a stacked DN room behind Travon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen. There are worse things to have.
It's a fine logic you dropped there, and I can see why you're excited about
it. Yes, sir. Pass rush. I need them waves.
So we talked about a corner that's going to play safety. They drafted an actual safety, too, with Raywan Hall out of Navy. And I'll say this. Guys here strike me as being dudes that have an opportunity to contribute on special teams, but there's more to it than that, it sounds like, Travis.
I would say so. Like, I mean, he's not the most athletic guy, and he's not the most athletic guy in the bunch. Like, he's absolutely not. Looking at his RAS score, that's how you would get a safety like this that's been as productive as he's been in the 6th round. It's because he ran a 4.57 40. He didn't have. I mean, he had a pretty bad split if you're referencing that against any of the other safeties and defensive backs in the rest of the draft class. However, he is the most productive safety or defensive back, I should say, out of all of this class, more than Xavier Watts. Again, Xavier Watts had way more interceptions specifically. But if you're talking interceptions, earlier, yeah. I believe you said that was in relation to Caleb.
Yeah.
Caleb, and that's actually for Lane. So Lane's going to be a primary 4-core special team player, but he's also going to be someone that's able to give you at least at minimum some depth at safety because he's been so productive. He is such a wise, instinctual safety, and he's been a 4-year starter at Navy. That I believe it was the first draft pick the Navy even had in this draft class. Like he had an 84.8 PFF grade, an 88.9 coverage grade, which is like that's Travis Hunter coverage grade levels. If you're talking PFF scores, he had a career best 20.9 force incompletion percentage at safety. Again, this is a thing that he's not even supposed to be known for. He's a special teams ace. I mean, even per James Gladstone, when he introduced him, he was talking about him being a safety, but take a look at his tape from special teams, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And so this isn't your Tim Jones situation where you have a guy who's only on the roster to play special teams. This is a guy who's going to be on the roster, yes, to play special teams, but he's going to be a plus as far as being a leader on the defense. He's going to be a plus and also being someone who can play at safety and maybe even give you a little bit there, depending on how Dewey looks, depending on how those guys behind those starting guys look.
Is he going to compete with Dewey and Buster?
That is going not Buster, because Buster's going to still probably be a corner, especially playing his zone defense. But Dewey, maybe Savage, Daniel Thomas, and etc. Like those guys, like I can absolutely see that being a situation for this defense. But I'm like, I know Gladstone's excited because he saw his special teams play. Cool, I fully understand that. I'm excited because he's a productive guy who may not be super athletic, but every single guy who was good in the NFL wasn't always good because they were super athletic or they were super athletes. Sometimes it's just guys who are smart, some guys who just focus on the game, some guys who just are dogs and trying to get it done. So I'm always going to root for the underdog, and at least he's going to give the Jaguars a plus in the special teams category.
You know, there was a guy, Travis, who came from a small school, HBCU, who caught a lot of passes, was really good at his position, ran a 4.640. His name had like a food or a food. No, 4.640.
Is he on the DoorDash or Uber Eats commercial these days? I think that feels right on the tip of my tongue. It's like an Asian food. It's
Larry Ice. That Larry Tice. Maybe it's obviously it's
Jerry. Jerry likes rice. Yes. I got you. That dude. But nah, so you're not wrong. There are absolutely some guys who can just find a way to get it done, and despite maybe not being the most athletic person or having those physical limitations, they just are better.
It's game intelligence. It's those things that matter, especially at the safety position, man. It's simply put.
You got it.
Before we wrap up tonight, Travis had a UDFA that he's so absolutely excited about. Well, how did you put it? That they got another draft pick, actually? But tell me about this guy.
That's it, bro. Like everybody else keeps talking about the Jaguars and their 9 draft picks, and I'm like, what 9? They got 10. I don't know what y'all talking about. Like y'all didn't learn math, man, in America. Like for real. So I'm talking about Jabar Muhammad, cornerback out of Oregon. Like because he is an outside corner who was 5'9", 182 pounds, many people think that he can't play outside corner at that size, and because of that, that's what people are kind of pegging as the reason that he fell in this draft. Not to mention he transferred from Washington after the 2023 season into Oregon in the 2024 season. But folks don't pay attention. Well, some folks don't pay attention to him. The folks that I talk to, like in the draft community and super fans of the draft community, they know who Jabar Muhammad is. And the fact of the matter, the Jacksonville Jaguars got him for nothing, for no draft picks, is kind of crazy to me, because after that 2023-2024 season at Washington, Muhammad was a first to second round draft pick. I think nearly everyone thought that going in, leaving that season. And he was a top 5 Pro Football Focus coverage grade. He was first team all Pac-12 at that time. And again, projected to be a first to maybe second round draft pick. And then he transfers to Oregon in a different defense where they play a little bit more man coverage instead of the zone coverage, which he seems to be better at. And at outside corner, and he got torched a little bit and playing a different scheme. And now I think it sounds like the Gladstone and company, or Cohen and company, Campanelli and company, are maybe leaning on, I think we can do something with this guy, maybe at outside corner. I know he's not the right size and everything else because he's only 5'9", 182, but maybe we can put that guy into a situation where he can compete and potentially have something there again for nothing. And I'm pretty excited about that. Everyone know this is my Josiah Cephas pick, but on the defensive side of the ball this year. So everybody talked, last offseason talked about Cephas as being the guy in the receiver room. Well, I'm with Jabar Muhammad as the guy in the cornerback room that I'm going to be rooting for, that underdog that I think can actually do it, because he's done it in 2023, and maybe a new scheme and a new NFL coach can help him kind of reach those levels here.
I feel like I've heard a little bit is this the guy Brett Coleman featured too? Because I seem to remember his name coming up. Granted, it may not have been lately, but Brett Coleman did a hidden gems kind of a show. And I think Muhammad may have been on that. I'd have to double check. But certainly
I might have missed that one.
I'll put it this way. There were a number of dudes. Check it out. There were a number of dudes you and I have talked about through our mock drafts that came up. And whenever the great Brett Coleman says it, I know there was one in particular in the Jamal St. Cyr episode where I had actually DM'd friend of the show, News 4 Jackson's Jamal St. Cyr, and said, Coleman said it. We're geniuses, So, that all being said, if you used to play for a group that was in the hunt for a national championship at one point, you can't be too bad at something. So I'll leave all of that. That.
So I think overall, the Jacksonville Jaguars, just looking at the defensive group that they've kind of put together here, I think they did a solid job. They came to some different conclusions. And I say this based on actions. I judge someone's actions more than I judge what I believe that they should believe. So in this situation, we previously told you guys based on our tiers that we thought cornerback, as far as the defensive side of the ball, we thought cornerback was essential. We thought safety and defensive tackle were important positions for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, as they've shown us with their draft picks and free agent acquisitions after the draft, now that the roster is fully complete with 91 active players at this time of this recording, okay, cool. They seem to think that safety was moderately important. They drafted 2 of them. They thought cornerback was important. They got Travis freaking Hunter. They got the best of them in this draft class. They didn't seem to think that defensive tackle was important, because even after the draft, they did not sign one when they had the option in free agency, curiously.
Well, what's the true lesson there, Travis? Think about that. That means they like the guys they got, for better or worse.
That means they like having Eric Armstead as their 3 technique. They like Mason Smith being, splitting reps with him there. They like Devon Hamilton playing that nose tackle role with Jordan Jefferson backing him up. They seem to think the defensive line is going to be fine with a little bit of development and refinement. I hope that they're right.
Or they're going to be kicking Trayvon inside some too, and then utilizing McLeod's versatility, perhaps.
That is quite possible, though I am hearing that they are still asking him to lose a little bit of weight and not gain. Like the last staff wanted all the defensive ends to gain weight, and now they want these guys to lose weight. So I don't really know.
Bad news for Chad Muma. That's what I know.
Maybe. I don't know, man. But anyways, so that's where we are with the defensive side, with the defensive side of the NFL draft and the undrafted free agent and the free agent acquisition after the draft. I'm just going to call all those guys draft guys just for the sake of it. But do you have any closing thoughts on that, bro? Like, how are you feeling about this defensive acquisitions that we've done?
You mentioned the defensive tackles. It scares the bejesus out of me. But for now, I'm going to wait for camp and see what happens. But if I see them getting pushed around again, you're going to hear about it after those particular events. And I'll leave it at that. Travis, tell the world.
Well, I can be found on all the socials. Travis D. Holmes. You see it here. You can find me in my writing covering the Jaguars, bigcatcountry.com. Please favorite it. We're getting to that time of year where, rookie camp is starting, mini camp is starting, all the offseason things that you guys aren't going to get that information from anywhere else. BigCatCountry.com. Keep it locked in. We're going to have you guys covered. And even when I'm in Europe, we're going to find a way to get this thing done. So you
better know it.
Keep it locked in. I'll be going in Europe right in June. So we're going to figure out how to get that.
How to make that work. We're going to make it work. Hey, listen, if I can contribute with the Duval dive while I'm in Greece, I want to hear it. Okay.
Thank you. You did.
Of course, I'm Kyle, a student of the game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out my writings for the Orlando Magic and the Jacksonville Jaguars with Fans First Sports Network, as well as my work covering the UCF Knights football and basketball, as well as other things with the Black and Gold Banneret and the Night Shift podcast and YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to all that. And folks, please, for the love of Pete, subscribe to the Duval Dive. Do yourself a favor. Prove to Emmanuel Acho that he is nothing but a side thing for Joy Taylor. Thank you. So, with all that being said, for Travis D. Holmes, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. Until next time, everyone, class